we go to Mexico City. And here's Manuel Rapallo to take us through, well, I alluded to it before, but it was a news conference which the White House announced changes to the border situation with Mexico.
That's right, Kamal, and we've been expecting this announcement for some time now. Even last week, we heard from Mexican officials who said that a partial closure of the United States-Mexico border would not be off the table for containment of COVID-19, given that even now there are still so many more cases in the United States compared to here in Mexico. And an important thing to know, perhaps especially for our viewers who live along the U.S. southern border, is that this partial closure announced by the United States only a little more than 1 hour ago will affect tourism and only land border crossings, and it will not affect trade. It will not affect people's ability to go to work if they work across the border. But there were a few other points where President Trump may have sent mixed messages as well, especially in regards to Mexico shutting down flights from Europe. We're still waiting to hear confirmation for the Mexican authorities whether or not that's going to be true, though there are a lot of people here in Mexico who would see this as a positive measure, given that Mexico has been reluctant to take some of the more serious or even extreme measures that many of the neighboring countries have taken, such as canceling flights or shutting down schools. Kamal?
Who else gets affected by this one, Manuel, from Mexico? I'm wondering about, because again, Donald Trump, he said a lot on that news conference, but there was talk about illegal immigration, legal immigration, the differences between the two and who gets affected.
Certainly. Well, there's, again, mixed messages and a lot being said. But basically, the argument that we're hearing from the United States is that health officials in the United States are concerned over the potential for a, quote, mass uncontrolled border movement. But again, we're hearing mixed messages. Earlier in the day, we heard from Mexican Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard, who had said that Mexico will not be accepting any asylum seekers or migrants or refugees from any third-party countries. In that press conference that we heard from President Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Secretary Pompeo said that that element of this agreement between the United States and Mexico had yet to be finalized, that an announcement would be made. President Trump chimed in saying that no third-party nation asylum seekers would be entering Mexico. So at the moment, we simply don't know exactly what that policy is. But to answer your question about who's going to be most affected in this case, we have to have our minds on migrants, on asylum seekers. There are thousands of individuals from all over the continent, from Latin America. In the case of Venezuela, some 4.9 million people have fled the country in the context of their economic crisis. In Central America, countries like Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, there are thousands of migrants and asylum seekers that are in Mexico that are probably, more than probably, the most vulnerable people in the population. So again, these are policies, these are agreements that are being made between the United States and Mexico, but we have yet to see how that's going to be implemented, given that when it comes to deportations that the United States wants to impose, there are several countries that have halted deportation flights. So again, a lot of policies that are up in the air, a lot of mixed messages, but that's what we're hearing from officials both in the United States and Mexico. Kamal?
Manuel Rapallo rounding out our trip around the world with our correspondents. Thank you so much for that.